There have been so many corruption cases reported in this country. And the president, in his wisdom, has chosen to, using parliament, to give more revenue or more funds to the investigative bodies. EACC, together with the DPP, have gotten good amount of money to pursue these criminals, get cogent evidence that can stand the test of times, and present a strong case before the magistrates. Now, there are still problems here. One is that the judiciary is still under personneled. They do not have the right numbers of personnel at the judiciary. The courts are still not, right in terms of numbers, and there have been projects going on to build more courts across the country. You remember the pronouncement about we shall revisit, and in the successive budget, judiciary was suffocated of funds.
And the Chief Justice actually complained about this.
He went public, but again the President, together with the Parliament, added 1.5 billion shillings extra into the current budget so that these courts can be completed. But again, we have heard of backlog in courts.
Cases, yeah.
So many cases, and now you are introducing several corruption cases. And the investigative authorities or bodies have not done a credible job, because for a judge, it's just about evidence. It's not about conjecture. It's not about hearsay. You have to present what meets the threshold for conviction. So if you push EACC and DPP to act so fast, and in the process leave out most important documents that will prove beyond reasonable doubt that a crime was committed, then really the judges have nothing to do but to set them free. Now, another thing that has been a big problem in this country is what is captured in Article 49 of the Constitution on the right to bail. Now, you have suspects who've been apprehended, and many a times they know exactly what they did and how they can tamper with investigations, but they appear before court and they ask for or apply for bail, and they are granted bail, and they go out there. Now they have access to witnesses, because the Witness Protection Act that was domiciled within Parliament has not worked so well for this country. So these people have the potential to interfere with witnesses, to interfere with investigations, and tamper with the documents. At the end of the day, people are set scot-free out here, yet monies have been swindled.
Right.
So I think it is a multi-pronged approach that must be employed, not just talking about the judiciary, but also fortifying the Witness Protection Act. And if you are protecting a witness, for instance, against somebody who has stolen billions, and this witness is going home without food on the table, definitely if I have access to this witness, I will give him something to eat. And they will now turn back, backpedal on the kind of evidence they have.
Right. So is this pressure on the judiciary, and is it healthy for the judiciary?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because I think the president needs to up his game in terms of being seen to be fighting corruption. And many people are almost getting tired that the president is just talking and nothing is happening. No, because we need to follow the due process of the law. And the investigations, if they were properly done, they will be able to get some convictions, and of course, a bit of money being returned to the state for purposes of ensuring that the public does not suffer. Now, my worry is as follows. If it was about public lynching, almost half the suspects would have been killed, and many more people would have been brought on board that we suspect they must be thieves, but we have no capacity to apprehend them. The positive side is that, yes, corruption seems to be going down in certain offices, because we know of some offices which used to have a roll call of managing directors and other senior officials almost every week to bring money for purposes of oiling the system. That has gone down of late. Yeah, that has gone down of late. But still, corruption is pervasive in our society. And what we need to do is to give support to the president, but also the president to up the game, look for, let the DPP look for cases that he knows they are watertight, have convictions, And that will go as a lesson to those who have been arrested and those who have not been arrested, that yes, fighting corruption is real. Otherwise, up to now, many Kenyans are very skeptical as to whether corruption has been fought successfully by the president. And you remember what the former Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Honorable Kaito Murungi, that corruption fights back. And I'm worried that corruption may start fighting back the way Mheshimiwa Okello said, by giving money to ensure that they frustrate the process. And I'm seeing many cases, even in court, that may be used to sanitize what was illegally gotten.
Okay.
And this is my worry.
All right.
My comment, Hussein, is I think you can understand the frustration of the president. And maybe that's the reason you'd say, just as many of us, that you'd like to see convictions happening. But like Honorable Okello says, you know, the judiciary won't work on emotions. It won't work on what people think out there. It will work on what has been brought on board. And that is why you saw in the last parliament, even the president brought a list, even in parliament, during the presidential address. And if you now follow that list today, you'll find that most of them have, I don't know what happened to the cases, because we didn't hear about them anymore. Look at the stepping aside of the procurement officers. It was very publicized, and the scrutiny was apparently done. The lifestyle audit was done, but what are the results? And I think that is what exactly Kenyans want to see. And this fight is frustrating because you cannot do the work of the judiciary. Even if the president really has an opinion, he can only put it as that, an opinion that would like you guys to give convictions. But convictions will be arrived at how the cases are structured. If you look at some of the decisions that have come from the courts of recent times, it's actually confusing, because if you look at the NLC chair, the Swazuri, right now a court has reinstated him. EACC had already said, step aside because you need to be investigated. Right. You have been associated with this and that, but he's now back. Courtesy of the same courts, yeah? So it really is confusing, and I hope that the onus actually is on the DPP, that before you even make any arrest, make sure you have done your investigations, be it undercover, whatever you need to do, that by the time I arrest you, I know this will pin you down, because I've already done my homework and I know exactly what I'll be looking for. Unless we do that, it will be a PR exercise, which will be very dangerous. And you know, this country, we don't take these issues as seriously as we should. If you go outside the country, in some of the first world, if you are associated, say, with murder and you're a public official, you don't hold your position. In fact, you'll never hold a position, maybe in your life, because it's a serious issue. If you're associated with siphoning public funds, already itself, it's an issue. But we actually just go back to what we were doing if you get out on bail and you just go and go back to your work. Right. And it's quite unfortunate. Right. But I think we have made... But without, again, jeopardizing innocence until proven guilty, exactly. Right? So our constitution gives you the right, even the right to bond. Even when people think you shouldn't get, some judges just say, the law says you can be granted bail because it is your right in the constitution. Okay. So I think it's a balance that has to be practiced by all of us, but not just in convictions. Let us recover what has been stolen from this country, because some has been buried in the overseas accounts. Can we return that money to be able to make sense, to be meaningful to this country? Because most of us, when you see us making noise, Hussein, in terms of marginalization, and people think it's a joke, it's because when the president says new projects have to be stopped because of corruption, I look at Gilgil constituency and I don't have an ongoing project or a road that is ongoing. And I am like, that affects me because there is nothing I will get. And that is why you see most of us talking about it, because it's not right. We support him in terms of fighting the corruption, but we also don't want to suffer. Don't let the innocent suffer because of what some few unscrupulous people have brought to this country in terms of contracts, in terms of the works being done. All right.
But again, Hussein, the president has a penchant for knee-jerk reactions. When something happens, he comes out there, blazing hot. But in few days, it is back to business as usual. So I think if the issue of corruption has taken a toll on this country, and just as my sister Wangari says, there are people who have stashed monies abroad that are known both by this government and the host governments out there. Under the principle of complementarity, those governments out there can partner with us and bring back those monies here, whether they like it or not. But again, you see, there is no good political goodwill to have this achieved. Otherwise, this president can achieve so much. Look at our immediate neighbor, President Magufuli,
yeah.
what he's doing. Sometimes you have to circumvent this filibuster of Congress and National Assembly.
Because he's also being accused of using a very a different approach.
Yeah.
And now people are talking about him and abusing people's rights.
Sometimes
to
to achieve the mandate, you have to do that. Otherwise, it will be. I don't know whether it's called abusing people's privileges, but people still, then they run to court to get conservatory orders to be out here and use the same monies to, interfere with the processes. We know for a fact, and that has been captured times more than number, that Kenyans touched money abroad, monies that were ill-gotten, and we are doing nothing about it. And there are countries that host, for instance, what is happening with New Jersey, where 2 Kenyans should be extradited. That has not happened today. Yet it is known, as a matter of fact, that those monies were stashed abroad. Why can't those nations work closely with us and bring monies whether they like it or not?
And we've had commitments from governments, but it never happens. If you ask me, we need to also restructure even how we are working as DCI and DPP. You see, like now, the CS, the agricultural CS, Kiunjuri, has provided, to your pet issue, the maize issue, has provided very damning evidence to the Senate or to the Parliament that we have millions of bags that have aflatoxin. First of all, we need to destroy that maize in public, because it is dangerous to human health and it is not right. Secondly, the people who have been named to have been paid 9 billion or to have been paid I don't know how many billions. They are not ghosts. I think CS should be able to be compelled to name them. And it is simple as that. I have said it even with the former CS Waiguru, that if you say you know the people who stole, why are you even having the privilege to keep the information? So, you must be able to be compelled to provide that information. I think Parliament should be able to also push the ones who are listening to these issues that you name them. I mean, they're not ghosts. Whoever it is, name them. The president has even accosted you even in public. Then actually cautioned you in public. Save your job by actually naming the ones who are culprits.
Okay.
Finally. But of course, the president also knows those people. But the irony, the president knows those people. Really, who knows more? Who has more information in Kenya than the president of the republic? He knows who are the culprits, and therefore he should do something about it. But the most interesting thing, Hussein, is that in Africa, there is a clash of 2 issues. One is the informal institutions and the formal institutions. The informal institution in this case is the traditions, the behavior, and the attitude of Kenyans, where even a thief that you know is a confirmed thief, he has stolen 1, 2, 3 things, and he's been taken to court. He may not have been convicted, but you know he stole so-and-so's property, are still accepted as leaders, because there is a question on chapter 6 of issues of integrity. Where is the integrity of this person? Now, the formal institutions are the ones now we are now condemning for not being fast enough. But if the informal institutions were carrying out their duties, some of these people would have been shunned in the public domain, and they would not have face to do anything other than complying with the formal institutions.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.